In this video, I'm trying out a build where you basically play as an invisible assassin mage sort of thing here. We have a variety of magic spells. It's not the most overpowered like this ability right over here, but there is something unique about it. Now this build makes use of a bunch of different spells. Some of them you might not recognize because they're not the most overpowered spells, unfortunately. There are a variety of spells here that have different strengths both in PvE and PvP that you might not have seen just yet, and some of them can be really cool. So this is straight up just me building these dogs over here, showing you a variety of these different spells here. You can see here we're using the Carrion Phalanx as well. The weapon I'm using or pairing with this build is the Wing of Astel. You can also use something like the Moon Veil or the Great Dark Moon Sword, for example. Though I feel like this weapon adds a lot of variety and different types of attacks that we can use here. Obviously, its Ash of War is fantastic, the Nebula, and then the charged heavy attack does a really cool thing here. So you can see we're also using this build with a secondary staff. We have two staffs. We have one that we keep in our offhand at all times. This one actually makes our invisible spells a lot stronger. And then we use a main staff in our right hand that has the higher incantation scaling or spell sorcery scaling in a sense, which makes the spell even stronger, and it keeps the bonus boost to the invisible spells. So you can see here, against bigger enemies and giants here, we can get a decent amount of damage, though you won't be typically one-shotting enemies like you can with other builds. Here you can see we also have a interesting PvP kind of skill here, basically Unseen Blade, right? This has to be on a weapon that doesn't have a specific unique Ash of War or a specific elemental kind of attack or Ash of War assigned to it. So you can see here this Uchigatana is actually invisible, right? It's a fantastic little thing there you can use in PvP to hide whatever your main hand weapon is so that the person you're fighting doesn't know what you're attacking with. So back to the Night Comet spells here and these night spells is that enemies can't physically see them, so they don't dodge them. Like these Clean Rock Knights, normally when you use Glintstone Pebble, the enemy will move left to right. When you use this, the enemy will not dodge at all. We also have a counter for enemies with shields. This is called the Ambush Shard. This is a kind of a knight ability that when you summon it, it summons right behind the enemy and shoots a bolt into their back, like this over here. So you can actually fight them, even if they're blocking you from the front, like they have a shield like this. You can counter people who have shields by using this move because they can't block behind them and in front of them at the same time. To get your most damage out here, you're probably going to be using Stars of Ruin, especially with the Wondrous Physic that eliminates your FP consumption, because it's going to be what your most powerful spell is. After that, it's the Night Comet, which is charged, which actually we have a talisman that increases the damage of this. Talking about this build here, let's go have a look at our stats here. You can see here we have a lot of our stats into intelligence. We have just enough dexterity to open up a variety of weapons to put in as a secondary placements if we want to swap over to like the Wing of Astel or the Uchigatana, for example. We have a ton of mind, vigor. You don't really need a lot of endurance for this, which is great. The main weapon that we have here is the offhand weapon, which is the Staff of Loss. And if we keep this in our offhand at all times, we can always have our boost to Invisibility sorcery, right? For our main kind of hand staff here, we have Lusat's Glintstone Staff here, which has a very high sorcery scaling. Means that when you cast your spells, you want to use the main right hand for the spells because it will actually receive the boost from the damage of the left one, whereas if you just use the left one, it'll be weaker, right? So you want to always use the main staff in the main hand. But if you have one of the lighter weapons like the Wing of Astel in your main hand, you can always still use your spells by using your left hand or offhand attack. The Wing of Astel, as we've spoken about before, is the weapon that has the Nebula as well as the charged heavy attack, which does this. And this is the Nebula, the Ash of War, which kind of casts these balls in front of you that explode. It's a fantastic weapon to use with this build. We also have the Uchigatana, which you can typically use any other weapon here. This was just to show you that we can make it invisible so that when you're playing PvP, you can use the unseen form, which makes your whole body semi-invisible, though you're still seen. It still does hide you from PvE type of enemies, but you can also do the unseen blade, which basically makes your weapon invisible. Even though we have it here, as you can see, you just can't see it. So your enemies, in PvP at least, will not know what on earth you're trying to hit them with, so they don't know how to counter you. For the armor, we have this as the helmet. This basically gives us extra intelligence, and the rest of the armor set is these random pieces that I pieced together for no specific reason. The first talisman here is the Magic Scorpion Charm that raises our magic attack but lowers our damage negation. We have one here that greatly raises the potency of sorceries and a weaker one that both stack, increasing our power of sorceries. And then the final talisman enhances our charge spells and skills, which works for the Charge Night Comet and I think maybe even the Wing of Astel. The Wondrous Physic here we have eliminates all FP consumption as well as a boost to magic attack damage. If we have a look at our spells here, we go to memorize spells. Our first one here is Night Shard. This is our weakest and also our cheapest kind of casting ability. It's similar to Glintstone Pebble. Ambush Shard is the one that attacks people from behind, like when they have a shield, hits them in the back. We have the Stars of Ruin, which is our strongest hitting one of this build over here. And then we have a secondary strong one, which is called the Night Comet, which can be charged to do a ton of damage. Then we have our invisibility spells. The first one will be the Unseen Form, which makes your body semi-invisible. And then the second one is the Unseen Blade, which basically makes your main right-hand weapon completely invisible. Then we have the Carrion Phalanx, which is a great defensive ability to have, as well as the Terra Magica kind of buff that you can put on the ground to make all your magic attacks do extra damage. And then right at the beginning of the video, we used the Rock Blaster as a move to just deal with heavy, strong, slow enemies that you just want to melt in seconds. I hope you guys enjoyed this build. I hope you guys try it out. If you do have any suggestions to it, please feel free to add on, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching.